Tony, do you think I'll be disappointed by the R5's battery life?
I don't know.
Yes or no?
I have spent the past few months shooting with the Canon R5 and putting it up against my Sony A7R III to see if I want to stay with my Sony or switch to the R5. I've tested it in several different types of photography, the types of photography that I shoot the most. So I made a video about portraits, landscape and travel, and wildlife. And you can see the links to those full videos down in the description below. I also threw in the Sony A7R IV because that's the newer camera, and I thought people might want to see that up against the R5 as well. This was a far more difficult choice than I thought it was going to be. I came to realize some problems with the Canon. No, not overheating, other problems that were getting in the way of my shooting, and I came to realize some things about my Sony A7R III that are a huge benefit, and I didn't think about them. So I'm going to not only relay my experiences, I'm going to share with you the camera that I'm finally choosing as my primary shooter, and share with you some things that I think you'll have to consider when you're choosing which camera is right for you. And I don't just mean between a Sony or a Canon, but I mean when you're choosing whichever camera you might want to shoot with. But before I reveal my final camera choice, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, KEH, not only for sponsoring this video series, but for making buying and selling used camera gear so much easier. If you're looking to offload some of your camera gear, you can sell it there, but if you're looking for high quality gear with a warranty that's inspected, that you know will be great and in working shape when you get it, you can go to keh.com and you can use the code TNC20 to get 5% off your purchase there. If you want to sell your camera gear and maybe upgrade to the newest and the best, or maybe even just sell it to get some extra cash in your pocket this time of year, you can go to KEH and you can get a quote from them. You can get a 5% bonus towards that quote if you use the coupon code TNCSELL. Thanks, KEH. Also, I'm editing the video now and I realized that we're giving away an R5 and KEH is chipping in and giving a second place prize of a $1,500 KEH gift card. So go to winthiscamera.com for a chance to win. Right, Pixel? Okay, I am going to reveal my final choice, but first I want to tell you how I chose my criteria. I went over the features of each camera. I looked into the lenses that were available and the quality of those lenses, the image quality, the price, and also something that's really important to me is the usability of the camera. The Sony A7R III is a 3-year-old camera, but the image quality is still keeping up with cameras being put out in 2020, and the low light capability is also really great. I was impressed by that, I was surprised by that, and I didn't expect it. A 3-year-old camera keeping up with the latest and greatest being put out 3 years later, like, I'm impressed. Sony also has really good lens options. They're sharp, they're well made, and there are a lot to choose from. And I got to also try the Sony 600mm f4 lens, and that was really impressive. So the availability of lenses is definitely not going to be a problem for anyone choosing Sony. Not to mention, because it's an older camera, you can get their used lenses on sale and get a really good deal, like I mentioned before, at KEH. When it comes to features on the Sony's been at the cutting edge for years now. Their IAF works really well, their low light capability works really well, just their AF in general is great, and I've been really happy with all of the features that they put into their cameras. One thing I really love about Sony is that they're always listening to the consumer and the reviewers and making updates. So I know when I'm shooting with Sony, I know there's always going to be something new, or they're going to be improving their cameras in some way. I also feel like Sony is a really healthy company and they're doing well in their camera division, so I trust they're going to be coming out with new technology and they're going to continue to invest in the camera division, and that's important to me. The usability of the Sonys, I think, is their Achilles heel. Of course everything's workable. It's not a deal breaker for me, but I've never been a huge fan of the ergonomics, the buttons, or the menu system. That's no secret to anybody. And sometimes I feel like it gets in the way of my shooting process. I like to be in that flow state. I like to be in the zone and just caught up in the moment. And I don't want to be pulled away from taking a photo to try to figure out what's going on with my camera. I know that doesn't bother a lot of people, but I don't like it. And the last criteria I considered is the price, which I've always considered Sony's to be very expensive, but now that they have a 3-year-old camera that's keeping up with brand new cameras, you can get a really excellent camera for a good price. And you can get this for about half the price of the Canon R5, which is about $4,000. You can get a used A7R III for about $2,200. And so that leaves you some room to get some other things to go along with your body, like some lenses and some accessories. So the Sony ends up being a really good value. Okay, so it sounds like I'm going on and on about how I love Sony. That's true. But now let's talk about the Canon R5 and those same criteria, starting with image quality. The image quality on the Canon R5 is incredible. It takes great pictures. They're sharp. It has incredible low light capability, even a little better than the Sony, I believe. So image quality, yeah. When it comes to lenses, the R5 might have a new lens mount, but that doesn't mean you're going to suffer on choosing lenses. They have a bunch of lenses available, not only for the new RF mount, but they also have a great adapter, which means that you can use their old lenses and attach them to the new RF bodies. And it works really well. One of the reasons I was considering switching to the Canon R5 is one of their new lenses, and that's the 800mm f11. I didn't think it was possible for an 800mm f11 lens to be good. I went into using this thinking it would not be good at all, and it's great. And so now I feel really confident that this is something I can bring with me when I travel to get more interesting pictures or wildlife pictures. And so I'm excited about this. Canon also has some other interesting glass, more niche-y things like an 85mm f2. So I feel like if I move into this Canon system, I have a lot of lens options, including a lot of great new lenses. Another new lens that I was really excited about that I tested in my portraits video was the 70-200 f2.8. It's really compact and cute and sharp and handles backlighting really beautifully. Sony has that lens, the 70-200, but it's bigger. As for the Sony 85mm f1.2, well, Sony does have an 85mm f1.4, but it's not quite the same. And so they have these really interesting niche-y lenses that I don't necessarily have to buy. I can always just rent them if I want interesting photos for a specific shoot. Okay, on to the features of the Canon R5. One thing that I didn't realize going into it is that its in-body image stabilization is insanely good. You can get up to 8 stops of image stabilization with the R5, and that means I was able to hand hold for an entire second, and I'm like as shaky as a chihuahua. So that's a really practical feature, right? I mean, it's a feature that works well. It's not one that you might use once a year. It's one you're going to be using every single day. And I know that when I'm shooting in low light situations, I need those extra stops of image stabilization. So I'm extremely excited about that. Another thing that blew me away on the R5 is their frame rate. When I'm using the electronic shutter, I could get 20 frames per second. That's crazy, especially when you're shooting wildlife. You're getting every little moment of movement, and that can be crucial when you're looking for an interesting wildlife or sports photo. Speaking of wildlife photos, they also have animal eye AF, and it works so well that sometimes it spotted the animal before I could. I love wildlife photography, so between the frame rate and the animal eye AF, I was really excited about these new features. Okay, those features are great, but I tend to think that they're really taking a toll on the battery life because the battery drained quickly, real quickly. And when it gets down to about 60%, it cuts that frame rate down as well. But the frame rate's still good, even when the battery life is impacting it. I think that Canon is going to have to do a little bit of research and figure out how to fix that battery problem. Sony had that same problem in their earlier cameras and they fixed it with a new battery. So I'm hoping that Canon does the same. Oh, and how could I fail to mention the video capabilities? Everyone knows it has 8K. I don't really care about 8K, but some things that I am excited about is the flip screen because I often take video of myself. And so that's really nice. Also, the continuous autofocus in video works really well. Sony is weaker in that department, and that's nice to have when you're taking video of yourself. Maybe you don't need that. Clearly I do. Look what I'm doing. Canon's ergonomics and usability are really good. The buttons feel great, they're responsive, the menu system is intuitive. I really tend to forget about the camera when I'm shooting, which is something that I like. One flaw that I spotted that kind of goes hand in hand with that quickly draining battery is that the on-off switch is on the left side of the camera. That means when you're shooting, you have to turn off your camera and then reach up with your other hand and turn it on again, which is something that you'll want to do frequently because your battery is going to be dead at the end of the day. You can see the Sony has the on-off switch right here. So with one hand, you can very easily turn your camera off or on and then press the shutter with one hand. I know you're gonna say that sounds really silly, but Tony and I, before talking about it, we're both having the same issue. Just make it easier if it were under your finger. Let's talk about the price of the Canon. It's pretty steep. It's about $4,000, which I think is an even more dramatically priced camera when you consider that the A7R3's image quality keeps up with this thing. You have to also consider it's brand new, so you won't be able to buy it used for a little while. And the same with the new RF glass. It's all going to be new, so it might not be hitting the market used for a while. You won't be getting any great deals, even though you will be getting a great camera. So which camera did I choose? I chose the Canon R5. Because it's got all the latest and greatest features. I love that compact 800mm f11 lens. I love the 8 stops of in-body image stabilization. And also, my job is reviewing cameras, and so I figure switching to a new system's probably a good thing. Shooting long-term with the R5 is gonna get me really comfortable and familiar with it, and if there are any problems, I will be reporting them back to you. I'm also not as concerned about the price because, after all, this is work, and I'll be selling my used gear to KEH. So maybe one of you can buy my A7R3. I still really love it a lot, as you can tell. My decision is made. I will be shooting with the Canon R5, but I think that your decision should probably be a lot different. You don't necessarily need all the latest and greatest features when you can get the same image quality with a camera that's 3 years old, and you can get a great used deal on it, especially at KEH. I saw them for about $2,200 in great condition. They also have a 365-day warranty now. How can you beat that? Of course, that math might change a little bit if you're already a Canon shooter, because you'll have to factor in that you won't have to sell all of your lenses and rebuy new stuff. So you're gonna have to work out that decision on your own, taking into account all of the criteria that I've laid out. So if you're looking for a good deal on used camera gear like the A7R3, probably mine since I'm going to be selling it to KEH, you can go to KEH.com and shop around, get a good price, and take advantage of that 365-day warranty. And you can get 5% off by using the coupon code TNC20. If you want to sell your gear and upgrade to the latest and the greatest like the Canon R5, you can sell your used camera, lenses, and accessories at a price that you can feel good about. Get a quote online or schedule a virtual appointment with KEH, and you can use the code TNCSELL to get 5% towards your quote. Thanks, KEH. So, what do y'all think? Which camera would you choose? Would you rather have the 3-year-old camera with the great image quality where you can get a good deal on used gear? Or are you going for the latest and the greatest so you can handhold for a second and have that super fast frame rate? I'm pretty excited about my choice. I seamlessly transitioned to this new camera, and I'm hoping that I can be shooting with it for many years to come, though I'm fearful that Sony, the company that's always coming out with something new, is going to come out with something amazing and tempt me again. Don't do it, Sony, because just don't.
Tony, what does KEH stand for? Kicking every hamster? That doesn't seem on brand. Ketchup every hamburger? Let's see what that's got to do with it.